welcome to Pure Yoga. So this is a flow practice, Vinyasa practice. It's quite a strong practice when it comes to doing the Vinyasas, but just take it to whatever your body requires you to do. So this practice is going to be where we add poses onto the end, and it's going to be something that is going to be quite challenging in the middle because we're going to be doing half moon, which is quite a hard pose to do. So if you want to have a block, you can always get yourself a block or a book or something. Just have that handy at the front of your mat, just in case you want to use it for your half moon poses. It just brings the floor a little closer to your hand and gives you something to be a little bit stable on. So we're going to start in kneeling today, and we're going to bring our hands onto the top of the thighs, and as we come into this seated position, take a roll of the shoulders and then just let them sink back down towards the hips. Take a close of the eyes and just take a moment to scan through that body from the top of the head all the way down to the fingertips, all the way down to the toe tips. Just making sure the whole body feels okay, and if there's anything that doesn't feel okay, just make sure you're mindful as you move in and out of the poses. If something doesn't feel right, come out of the pose and maybe find yourself in child's pose for some restorative breaths. When you've taken that scan of the body, bring the attention to the breath and start to take a long, deep breath in through the nose and a long sigh out through the mouth. Take another 2 breaths like this. As you breathe in, grow tall through the spine. As you breathe out, feel that grounding and stability into the floor. The rest of your breathing, try and bring it to that Ujjayi breath, that slight restriction at the back of the throat, just using your nose rather than your mouth to breathe. But if you do need to use the mouth, feel free to do so. Opening the eyes. Taking your right hand to your left knee, your left hand behind, and take a little rotation to the left side of the room. Come back through centre, take it to the other way, left hand to right knee, and turn and twist to the right. Back through centre, over to the other side, just doing rotation through the spine, taking our spine through different articulations. Back through centre, take it to the other side. Come back to the middle, tempt the fingers of the left hand, reach up with the right hand and send that right hand over to the left side. Try and keep that right sit bone grounded into that right heel. Come back through centre, then take it the other way. Tempt the right fingertips to the mat and reach over with that left hand. Come back to centre, ground that hand and take it to the other side. Really feeling that bend into that left side waist. Back to centre, one more to the other side. And bring it back to centre. Bring the hands onto the knees, push the chest back, bring the chin into the chest, draw the belly back to the spine. And on your in-breath, lift up through the chest, lift up through the gaze, flare through the ribs. Take in flexion and extension in 2 directions. Taking 2 rounds, and then send those chests up to the ceiling and lift that gaze. Come back through centre, make your way onto your hands and knees, and then from your hands and knees position, step both feet back into a plank and just hold it in that plank space just for a couple of breaths. Maybe paddling and dropping one knee down to the floor at a time. Softening through the elbows, making sure those shoulders are over the heel of the hands. And as you drop a knee, you stretch through the heel of the opposite foot. Then from this position, start to lift those hips up towards the ceiling, still paddling those feet as you lift those hips high. Finding that first downward facing dog place. And then when you're happy to bring those heels to a still position, squeeze them back. Create some space along those collarbones, making sure the feet are hip width apart, hands are shoulder width apart, widening the fingers, widening the toes. Trying to encourage those heels back towards the mat. Taking 3 optional vinyasas. First option, come forward to plank. If you're coming with me, drop down the knees, untuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows, release that chest down to the floor. Push into the hands, lift up the chest, push the hips into the mat. Release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes, bring the chest back towards those thighs. Push into those hands, push into those feet, lift up those hips and squeeze those heels back. Relax through the neck, nod and shake the head. Then taking option 2, forward to plank on the inhale. Release down with a straight body, or if you wish to drop the knees again, drop the knees. Release to the floor, untuck the toes, push into the hands and lift up the chest. Release that chest back down, tuck under with the toes. Bring the chest back towards those thighs. Push into the hands and feet, lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Nod and shake of the head. Then taking option 3 if you wish, or stick with option 1 or 2. Come forward to a plank position. Release down to a hover off the mat, elbows grazing the ribs. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Make your way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. So doing those vinyasas has taken our body into flexion and extension. We're going to start with the standing flow, adding a pose on each time we go from left to right. Weight comes into your left foot as you raise that right leg up towards the ceiling, heel lifts up. Try and keep the hips nice and neutral and square. And then on your out breath, bring the knee in towards the chest, gaze in between the hands as you step your right foot through. Drop your left heel down, bring your right hand to the inside of the right leg, left hand onto the shoulder, then reach that left hand to the ceiling, then forward to the front of the room, holding it in side angle stretch. If you want to use a block or a book, you can feel free to hold that hand onto that block at whatever level you wish to take. It has 3 levels. If you wish to just bring that hand to the floor, just reaching forward with those left fingertips, palm facing down. Pushing down into that right palm, into that floor. One more breath in this space, tucking the right bum cheek under, turning the left hip out. Bring that left hand down, right hand to the opposite side of the foot. Raise that right leg up to the ceiling. Bring it back to meet the left. Take a flow vinyasa of your choice. Forward to plank, inhale. Release to the floor, I'm dropping the knees, elbows grazing my ribs and tucking my toes. Push into the hands, I'm coming up into a higher back bend. Then releasing the chest back down, tucking under the toes, bringing the chest back to the thighs. Pushing into the hands and feet, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Have a nod, have a shake of the head, maybe a paddle through the feet. And then taking that same pose on the left side. Breath in, raise that left leg. Then bring that knee to the chest. Gaze in between the hands as you step your left foot through. Drop your right heel down internally. Bring your left hand to the inside of that left foot. Right hand onto the shoulder. Turn the shoulders to the right. Reach the right hand then to the ceiling. And then forward to the front of the room with the right palm facing down. Maybe gazing up into that palm. Remember, you can use that block underneath that left hand if you wish. Push that left bum cheek under, turn that right hip out. Energetically push into both feet as you hold this pose. Trying to elongate that left side of the torso so you're not just collapsing over that left thigh. Left knee is stacking over the left ankle. And we're feeling like both hips, right is stacking almost on top of the left. 2 planes of glass, maybe either side of the body, and you fit in between the 2. One more breath here. Then bring that right hand down, left hand to the outside of the left foot, left leg up to the ceiling. Bring it back to meet the right. Take an option of vinyasa of your choice. Forward to plank on the inhale. I'm taking straight body but releasing to the floor when I get there and tucking the toes. Pushing into the hands, I'm lifting up into a full back bend. You could maybe do cobra, low back bend. Bring the chest back down, tuck under with the toes. Bring the chest back towards the thighs, push into the hands and feet, lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. So we know where we're going with the first pose, but we will add a second pose on of Warrior Two. Breath in, your right leg lifts, hips stay neutral, lift the heel as high as you can, squeeze the left heel down, bring that knee then into the chest, step the right foot through, drop the left heel down, right hand comes to the inside of the right foot as you reach the left arm up and over to face the front of the room, just holding it here just for a breath. Then really engage those oblique muscles as you lift that torso up over the hips, shoulders stacking on top of those hips, hips and shoulders facing the left. Bend into that right knee as much as you can to find that low version of Warrior Two. Trying to find that right thigh as parallel to the floor as you can take it. Push those feet down into the mat. Stretch forward and back with both hands, gazing towards those right fingertips. And think of squeezing that right knee out so we get that stretch on the inside of that right thigh. One more breath here. Before you then windmill the hands down either side of the right foot, lift that right leg up towards the ceiling. Keep the hips neutral, left heel squeezing down. Bring the right foot to meet the left. Take a vinyasa of your choice. Forward to plank on the inhale. I'm taking it to a hovering plank, chaturanga. Then rolling over the toes, lifting the chest. Thighs are staying away. Full back bend. And then taking it back into down dog by lifting those hips up over, rolling the toes. Finding our place back to down dog. Same two poses, left side. Breath in, left leg lifts. Hips stay neutral, right heel squeezes back, left heel lifts up. Bring that knee into the chest, gaze in between the hands as you step your left foot through. Drop your right heel down, left hand to the inside of the left foot, right hand reaches up and over to the front of the room. Turn the chest and hips towards the right. One breath here. Then lifting the shoulders over the hips. Keep a bend in that left knee. Both hands reaching forward to the back of the room. Left thigh coming parallel to the floor, so get into your lowest variation of Warrior Two. Really working those thigh muscles as we take those hips a little lower. Left knee squeezing out. Bum cheek tucking under and the lower belly lifting. Nice strong core centre. Not pinching those lower backs at all, relaxing through the shoulders, growing up through the crown of the head. On your next out breath, windmill the hands down, either side of the left foot, lift that left leg, hips stay nice and square, bring that left foot back to meet the right. Vinyasa option of your choice. I'm taking it back to option one, dropping the knees and tucking the toes, releasing the torso to the floor. Lifting up through the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades back. Making your way back to down dog. Remember, you can upgrade or downgrade these vinyasas. Work with your energy levels, whatever works for you. Heels squeeze back, gaze towards the toes, the knees or the hips to get a stretch through the back of the neck. So we're working on that right side again, adding another pose on. Breath in, the right leg lifts, hips stay neutral, left heel squeezes down. Bring that knee towards the chest, gaze in between the hands, step your right foot through. Drop your left heel down, right hand to the inside of the right foot, reach up and over with the left hand to the front of the room. Chest and hips facing the left. Find Warrior Two, use the oblique muscles to lift the torso, shoulders over the hips. Sink into that right knee, get your lowest version of Warrior Two just for a breath. Then straighten your right leg, try not to lock out the joint. Reach forward and down with the right hand, elongating through that right side body. Elongating through the left side body, head in line with the spine. Triangle pose, gazing up towards that left thumb. Right hand reaches down to the ground, left hand reaches up to the sky. Turn and twist that right shoulder under the left. Right bum cheek tucks under, left hip turns out. That knee of the right can sometimes go into a hyperextension lock. Try and send a little bend into that knee. Easy breaths as you hold it in this triangle pose, using that oblique strength to keep that torso long. One more breath here. Then release both hands down either side of the right foot, right leg lifts up to the ceiling, and it comes back down to meet the left. We take a vinyasa of your making, forward to plank inhale. I'm taking straight body to release all the way to the floor. Untucking the toes, pushing into the hands and lifting the chest. Releasing the chest back down, tucking under with the toes. Bring the chest back towards the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet. Lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. We know we go to the left side after the right, so your next breath in, your left leg lifts, your right heel squeezes to the floor. Bring that knee into the chest. Step your left foot through. Drop your right heel internally, left hand to the inside of the left foot. As you reach up and over, right hand to the front, palm facing down. Hold it there for a breath. Use those oblique muscles, lift those torsos over the hips and sink into that left knee a little more and sink those hips a little lower. Holding in warrior two for a breath. Then straightening your left leg, reaching down to the left shin, reaching up with the right hand. Right shoulder stacks on top of the left. Try not to lock out that left knee. Micro bend, use those muscles. Breathing nice and long, length through both sides of the torso. And feel like that stretch is coming from the top hand down to the bottom hand and an expansion through that chest. One more breath in this position. Then bring that right hand down, left hand down, and then lift that left leg up to the ceiling. Bring it back to meet the right, and vinyasa through of your choice. Forward to plank, inhale. Release down to the floor, I'm taking it to a hover. Rolling through, up, lifting the chest, thighs stay away. Making your way back to down dog, lifting the hips and squeezing those heels back. Coming down onto the knees, maybe take a little water break if you wish before we take on the start of our two standing balances. We add one on at a time. Half moon and reverse half moon. So if you're wishing to use a block, make sure the block is just to this side edge, right side of the mat. Just something that you can use to find your balance with when we get to that position. So taking a breath maybe in child's pose. Before we then come up onto our hands and knees, stepping back into a plank. Lifting our hips to down dog, feet hip width apart, hands shoulder width apart. Creating some space along the collarbones, length through the torso, lift of the hips and the tailbone. Squeeze of the heels back. Your next breath in, your right leg lifts. Hips stay neutral, left heel squeezes down. Bring the knee into the chest, gaze in between the hands as you step. Your right foot through, drop your left heel down. Bring your right hand to the inside of the right foot. Left hand lifts up and over, reaching forward to the left side of the room. Use those oblique muscles. We'll find our warrior two. Shoulders stack over the hips and the hips stay low. Right thigh coming as parallel to the floor as you can muster. Then straightening your right leg and reaching forward and down with the right hand as your left hand lifts to find triangle pose for a breath. Then gaze towards that right foot, bring the left hand to the hip, step forward onto your right foot, lifting your left leg up to hip height, turning the chest and the shoulders to the left side of the room, left toes to the left side of the room. Left leg is in line with the hip, torso in line with the hips, and that right hand is being either supported by the block or you can bring those right fingertips to the floor. If you then wish to reach up with that left hand to the ceiling, maybe gaze forward or up to that left hand if you wish. It does challenge the balance when you hold it in this space. One more breath here. Then just dropping that left foot back, bring both hands either side of the right foot, lift that right leg up to the ceiling. Bring it back to meet the left. Take a vinyasa of your choice. Forward to plank, inhale. Release down, either to the floor or hover. Roll over the toes if you're with me, keeping the thighs away, lift up the chest. Making your way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Same on the left side, those 4 poses. Breath in, left leg lifts, hips stay neutral, right heel squeezes down. Bring that knee into the chest, gaze in between the hands, step your left foot through. Drop your right heel internally, left hand to the inside of the left foot, right hand reaches up and over, palms to the down to the floor, fingertips to the front of the mat. Then lift the torso over the hips, sink the hips low, try and get that left thigh as parallel to the floor as you can, finding warrior 2, arms out, shoulder height. Straightening through your left leg, reach down with your left hand as your right hand lifts. Remember not to lock that left leg around that joint. Turn the chest and hips to face the right side of the room. Then bring your right hand onto the hip. Step forward a little with the right foot. Bring the left hand onto the block. Lifting the right leg up to hip height. Shoulders and hips turn to that right side of the room. And when you've found the lift of that right leg, maybe lift the right hand, maybe gaze forward or up towards that right hand to challenge that balance. Right toes go back towards the shins, turn into that right side room. And we try and tuck that left bum cheek under and stack the right hip on top of the left. Left toes facing the short edge, right toes facing the long edge. One more breath in half moon. Then bending into that left knee, bringing your right foot back. Bring both hands either side of the right foot. Lift the left leg and bring it back to meet the right. Take a vinyasa of your choice. Forward to plank, inhale. Release down to the floor or hover. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Releasing the chest back down, tucking under with the toes. Bring the chest back to the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. Nod and shake their head. Ready to add on another standing balance, which we're going to do reverse half moon. It may challenge the balance quite strongly, but just try and focus on the breath as you hold the pose. Weight comes into the left foot as you raise the right leg. Bring that knee into the chest, gaze in between the hands as you step your right foot through. Drop your left heel down, right hand comes inside the right foot. Left hand lifts up and over to the front of the room. Side angle stretch, both torso lengths on left and right side similar. Then lift the shoulders over the hips, keep the hips nice and low. Right thigh is parallel to the floor, right knee stacking over that right ankle. Straightening the right leg, reach forward and down with the right hand as the left hand lifts. Maybe gaze up to that left thumb. Right shoulder curls under, the left shoulder stacks. Right bum cheek tucks under and the left hip stacks. One more breath here. Then gaze down towards that right foot, bring your left hand onto your hip. Step forward with the back leg. Find the grounding of the hand on a block or a book. And lift that left leg up to hip height. Hold it in that space just for a breath. And then we're going to turn the hips down to face the mat so the hips come nice and square. Our left hand then comes onto the block and then we reach up with the right hand so we turn the chest towards that right side of the room, trying to find that reverse half moon. So then that right shoulder comes to stack almost on top of the left or somewhere close. Left leg stays in line with those hips, a real challenging pose to hold. One more breath here, won't hold you long. And then release both hands down, step your left foot back, reach up with your right leg and bring it back to meet the left. Same vinyasa of your choice, forward to plank. Release down to a hover, elbows graze those ribs. Roll over the toes and lift up the chest. Making your way back to down dog. Lifting those hips, squeezing those heels back. nodding, shaking of the heads. Ready to take on the other side. Breath in, left leg lifts. Bring that knee to the chest, gaze in between the hands and step your left foot through. Drop your right heel down, left hand to the inside of the left foot as you reach up and over with the right hand, gazing to that right palm. Find warrior two, keep the hips low, left leg almost parallel to the floor, shoulders stack over the hips. Then straighten the left leg, reach forward and down with the left hand as the right hand lifts, gazing up towards that right thumb. Tuck under with the left shoulder, stack with the right, tuck under with the left bum cheek and stack with the right hip. Bring the right hand to the hip, gaze towards the front foot, step forward with the back foot, find a balance onto the block with the hand, hips turned out to the side, right toes back to the shin, reach up with the right hand as you turn and twist that torso to the right side room. Then turn the hips down, bring your right hand down to the block, and then from this place, reach up with the left hand and try and turn and rotate that torso, holding that space of rotated half moon. Right leg still in line with the hip, right shoulder stacks underneath the left shoulder. One more breath here. And then release that left hand down, right hand down, step back with the right foot, lift the left leg. Bring it back to meet the right. Flow a vinyasa of your choice. Forward to plank, inhale, release to the floor or hover. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Make your way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. Just coming onto the knees, just take a moment maybe to take on some water. I'm just going to close my front blinds as school will soon be coming for pickup. Don't want no parents gazing in. So making our way back to your down dog after you've taken some water, lifting up the hips, squeezing of the heels back. Okay, so one last round of adding a pose on, and the last pose will be chair. We're taking all those poses that we've done before. Right leg lifts. Bring the knee to the chest. Gaze in between the hands, step your right foot through. Drop your left heel down, right hand in front of that right foot, left hand comes up and over to the front of the mat. Bring the torso over the hips, and find your warrior two, arms in line with the shoulders. Straighten your right leg, reach forward and down with the right hand as that left hand lifts. Turn and twist that torso, left shoulder stacks on top of the right. Bring those shoulders again back over those hips. Then step yourself forward, bringing your right hand onto the top of that block, lifting your left leg up to hip height. Your left hand raises up to the ceiling, finding half moon. Then turn the shoulders and the hips down towards the floor. Swap hands on the block. Left leg stays lifted as you turn and twist towards that right side of the room. Then bring your twist back to centre. Bring both the right hand onto the hip. Bring your left foot forward to meet the right. Sink into the hips and find chair. Both arms lifting up towards the ceiling. Sit bones grounding and lowering towards the floor. Lower belly lifting, tailbone tucking. One more breath here. Then release the hands down. Step back with your left foot. Step back with your right foot. Plank position. And make your way down to either a hover or to the floor, dropping the knees or not. Push into those hands, lift up the chest. Release that chest back down, tuck under with the toes. Bring those chests back to those thighs, push into the hands, push into the feet. Lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. We have one more side to do with those 6 poses, adding that last pose of chair onto the end. Breath in, your left leg lifts. Bring that knee to the chest, goes in between the hands, step your left foot through. Drop your right heel down, left hand to the inside of the left foot, right hand up and over to point to the front of the room, palm facing down. Then lift that torso, keep the hips low and find warrior 2. Left knee bent, right leg straight. And then straighten that left leg. Reach down with the left hand, reach up with the right hand, find triangle. That space of being in between 2 planes of glass. Bring your right hand onto the hip, gaze down to the left foot. Bring your left hand onto the block. Find that half moon, turning the shoulders and the hips to the right. Right hand lifted, right leg lifted to hip height. Toes of the right foot back towards the shins. Then turn the hips and the shoulders to face down to the floor. Swap hands, right hand to the block. Lift the left hand up, rotate through the waist, so we're twisting through the centre of the spine. And that right leg stays in line with the hip as you lift that left hand up nice and high. Then bring your left hand to the hip, step your right foot forward. Sink the hips low, raise the arms high and find that chair position, feet just slightly apart. Bend into those knees, bums come nice and low. Easy breaths in, long breaths out, maybe sink a little lower. One more breath here. Then release the hands down, step your left foot back, step your right foot back, find plank. Let's hold it in this space for a few breaths before we take our last vinyasa. Be tall through the crown, pushing back with the heels, belly squeezing back. Your next out breath, release down, either to a hover or to the floor. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Finding your way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. Having a nod, having a shake of the head. Coming down onto the knees, untucking the toes. Bringing the sit bones back towards the heels. Take a roll of the shoulders, relax them back towards the hips. Bringing your right hand to your left knee, your left hand to the lower back. Just twist, rotate to that left side. Still keeping tall, finding that twist through the waist. The pelvis is stabilised onto those heels. Take it to the other side and hold it in that space. So left hand to right knee, right hand on that lower back. Turn through the waist. Maybe use that left hand to anchor the twist a little more, but keep the pelvis facing the front of the mat. Come back to centre. Bring your left fingertips to the floor and tent the fingers. Right hand comes up and over. Keep the right sit bone grounded and just lean and stretch that right side waist, contracting the left side of the waist. Back to centre. Bring your right fingertips to the floor, left hand lifts, and we lateral flex to that right side of the room. Left hip stays grounded, you feel that length coming down the left side and the shortening of the right side. Come back to centre. Bring both hands onto the knees, tuck the chin into the chest, roll through the upper spine, the mid spine, the lower spine. And then push that chest forward, flare the ribs, lift the chest, lift the gaze. And come back to centre, making your way onto your bums, bringing the feet forward, bend into the knees. We're going to do a little bit of core strength here, finding our boat pose. You can take it as strong as you wish or as gentle as you wish, either keeping the hands gripping underneath those knees. Find that balancing point, lift the chest, relax the shoulders, lengthen the spine, raise up one leg, raise up the other. Choice to stay a hold of the legs or release the hands. If you want to straighten the legs further, Straighten up either through one leg at a time or both legs together. Holding it in full boat. Maybe you want to lift the arms up high to get that full extension of the limbs. The longer the limbs you are, the harder it becomes. One more breath in boat. Then release the toes to the mat, give the knees a hug, lift up through the torso, then tuck that chin into the chest, the forehead onto the knees. And then bringing those hands behind you, fingertips pointing out, keep the shoulders facing the short edge. Just let the knees go over to your right, don't let that left shoulder follow. Keep it pointing forward, chest pointing to that short edge. A little rotation through that waist. Come back to centre, take it to the other side, knees to the left. Don't let that right shoulder creep around. Keep it squeezing back, shoulder blades squeezing together. Try not to sink into the shoulders, push into the hands. Feel that crown of the head and the neck being long. Back to centre. Then bring the feet just slightly further forward. Bring the bums into the centre of the mat. If you wish to make the legs long here, feel free to do so. But this just makes it a little harder with the bend into the knees. So we're going to slowly make our way down onto the floor with control. Being mindful as you move through that body. So really controlling it, trying to keep the soles of the feet flat as you bring that torso all the way down, feeling each vertebra coming to the floor one by one. And then when those shoulders come down to the mat, bring the arms out to a T shape. Bring the bend a little deeper into the knees. Bring your right knee over the left. And then just let the knees drop over to that left side of the room and the gaze towards that right hand. Keep that right shoulder plugged into the floor. If it's a little too strong to have those knees going over to the left with the legs crossed, just uncross the knees a little bit and just bring the knees over to the left without that cross. Bring those knees back to the centre, gaze back to the ceiling. Swap over the legs. Left leg now brings over the right. If you've not crossed the legs the other side, maybe don't cross them on this side. And then take that rotation, letting the legs come to the right, the left shoulder staying down on the floor. And feel that stretch down that left side waist. Maybe that stretch into that chest space, into that armpit on the left side. All the way down from the armpit, down to those hips. Bring those knees back to the centre. Bring your left foot to meet the right. Then bring your right ankle onto the top of the left knee. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body. We're taking it up into a one-legged bridge with an external hip rotation on that right side. So push into the feet, squeeze that left bum cheek to lift those hips high. Try and keep both hips in a straight line as though you could balance something in between the hips. The gaze is up, the shoulders are relaxed, the chin tucks towards the chest to create some space with the back of the neck. The right knee's dropping out, but try not to let the weight of that right knee drop that right hip down. Keep lifting the hips to be level. One more breath here. Then slowly release that bum back to the floor. Bring your right foot down. Bring your left foot onto the top of the right knee. Turn the knee out. So pushing into this time that right foot as you squeeze the right bum cheek to lift those hips high. Bringing that chest towards the chin, trying to keep both hips in line with each other, not trying to let that left hip drop, but keeping that left knee turned out. Use those hands as stabilisers. Keep pushing those shoulders into the mat, squeezing that right bum cheek as much as you can, strengthening through the glutes. Then release that bum back down towards the floor. Release the left foot down to meet the right. Let the feet stay together. Let the knees drop out to the side. Soles of the feet come together. Then try and engage that core center. So you try and feel like you're lifting the lower belly up. The ribbon hips come to a bit of a tether. And then on that in-breath, lift the hands up and over the head. And take a hold of each elbow. And just let the shoulders relax, but try not to let that back arch. Don't let those ribs flare, so we're really pushing that lower spine into the mat. And then just take the upper part of the torso over to your right side, but still not arching into that lower back, so we have a little lateral flexion of that spine. And that stretch of that left side body. The stretch of the inner thighs, but still finding that core engagement, tethering those ribs and hips, using that abdominal strength to protect that lower back. Come back to center with the torso, then take that torso over to your left, trying to bring those elbows as close to the floor, pushing that lower back as close to the mat as you can. And you should really be feeling the engagement around the center of the body, through those hips, through those torsos. So taking strength and stretch at both times, equal measures. Bring those arms back to the center. On your in-breath, bring the hands back up and over. Take a hold of the outside of the legs and just bring the knees together. Heel toe the feet out to the width of the mat. Bring the arms out, cactus arms. Then let the knees drop over to your right side without moving the feet and stretch that left hip flexor. Open through the groin of that right thigh. Maybe bring that right hand onto the top of the right knee to encourage that leg a little lower. Maybe you want to take that left hand to the left foot, walking that left foot a little closer towards the hand, so you feel a little more stretch into that left thigh. One more breath here. Bring that left hand back to cactus arm. Walk that left foot back to where it came from. Right hand back to cactus arm. Bring both knees back into the middle. Just let them internally rotate for a moment. Dropping the knees inwardly. And then let the knees come over to your left. Maybe let that left hand come onto that left knee to push it down to the floor. Maybe heel toe that right foot towards that right hand. Bringing your right hand to meet your right foot. And just feel that stretch through that thigh muscle in that hip flexor. Try not to take too much of an arch into the lower back. Engage those abdominals. Take the pinch out of the lower spine. And just hold it in this stretch. Real yummy stretch for those hips and those quads. Bring that right hand back to cactus arm. Heel toe that right foot back to where it came from. Left hand back to cactus arm. Both knees come back to the center. Let them drop internally for a breath. Then heel toe those feet back into the middle. Bring those knees in towards the chest. Give those knees a squeeze. Maybe make circles with the knees in one direction. Circles the other way. Bring the legs to come long. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body. Let the fingers gently curl as the palms face up. Find that comfortable space at the back of the head. Take a long breath in. Long breath out. Give those hips a little shake from side to side. Take another breath in. Another breath out. Relax the shoulders towards the hips. Another breath in. Another breath out. Close the eyes, let the jaw relax. The tongue drop away from the roof of the mouth and the forehead soften. Then starting to bring some movement back into the fingers, into the toes, maybe rotating those wrists, those ankles, maybe taking a full body stretch, stretching the hands up and over the head, stretching through the fingers, the toes, arching that lower back. Then bringing those hands up and over, bringing the knees in towards the chest. Just have a little rock of the body from side to side. And then making your way up to seated with an energetic roll up and down that spine. And then when you come to seated, the second roll, bring yourself into that seated position, eyes gently closed, hands on top of the thighs. Take a breath in. Breath out, hands to the chest. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts, from my heart to yours. Namaste.